So, let's see. Nothing to hold on to is what started thinking about. That there's really nothing that we can hold on to, or with maybe an exception or so of what our actions are about. But the reason I started thinking about this was from just a very practical, personal, ex- typical experience that I have. Nothing um, that's that unusual. It's really thinking about my work as a freelancer and a small business owner, but mostly as a whatever you want to call them, freelance or small business. All of what I've done is usually um, projects that come and go. So these projects, these work assignments, they come, someone calls me, something comes up, and it feels really good to be wanted, and it feels good to be hired, and it feels good when things go well on the job. And sometimes I get to reconnect with old work friends, and I'm earning a living, making some money, and all that comes with it is very pleasant. And then at some point, every one of these jobs comes to an end, and there's some kind of negative feeling associated with that usually, or at least often, I can't say always. And sometimes it's just a strong desire for that, to hold on to that job. How can I make it stay? Sometimes it's an unpleasant experience that happened on the job that's occupying me, and there's a negative tone with that. And so it goes, job after job, I go through the cycle of feeling dissatisfaction, following the feeling of pleasure. And it keeps happening and happening. And I realized on this last assignment that I've been on, that was on and off for 3 months or more, and may continue. But I realized whatever's going on here, this thing is going to end too. And maybe I don't have to hold on to that same wish that it's not going to go away. Or maybe the same wish that I can't wait for it to go away. But usually the same wish that it's not going to go away. And we'll see how that goes with this one. But this is really this pattern of pleasure, wanting it to stay, dissatisfaction coming for some reason, and it goes cycling around. It's sort of like the game is on each time it starts new. And this is samsara, and it comes with much suffering and a lot of pain. So I began thinking this job, which I'm not particularly strongly attached to, but I like some things about it. It's not going to last, so perhaps I should prepare myself this time for that, so that I can more easily let go when the time comes. So I was like, how do I practice this? Can I practice and prepare for the experience of this so that it will end differently this time? Not that the facts of it will end, but that my relationship to the way it ends is something that I approach in a way that is more, with some more understanding. So I started asking, what am I trying so desperately to hold on to? And with that, I then moved into, well, can I embrace the unknown of what will happen? Maybe this unknown of what will happen will be new opportunities that are even better. Maybe not, but even if I could let go just a little and loosen the grip just a little and learn to accept things, how would that be? Can I live with the idea of just letting things be as they are? Or can I continue to try to make them what I want, even when it's beyond reason? Especially when it's beyond reason. I have nothing to say against trying to control your circumstances when you're doing it skillfully and trying to adjust for things that aren't going well. But when you have no control over that, why keep going? It's truly impossible to hold on to things forever. And if I'm really honest though, I keep trying. And I know I keep trying, and I see others do this too. So that helps me feel not so alone in this, but it's a fool's errand. And yet we do it anyway. This is a cycle. This is samsara. So the Buddhist teachings can help bring us to a worldview that to see that there is nothing that we can truly hold on to. The only thing we do own are our actions and the karmic imprint of our actions, according to the Buddha. But leaving that aside, there's nothing else we're holding on to that we can successfully hold on to. Everything changes, things come, they go. And for us to see that everything is fluid and ever-changing is a challenge. At least for me it is. And we often don't want to lift the veil and accept the truth that everything is changing. Sometimes we see it. Sometimes we see things changing rather quickly. And we're forced to see that we can't hold on to everything. And I do believe that with practice and guidance, we can see that understanding our very own personal versions of holding on is a big task in life that the Buddha has steered us towards. It's not only a big task in life, it's a big task as we approach death. The ultimate letting go in many ways. So, this teaching can apply to everything, the small things, the big life decisions that we're faced with, new relationships, changing in our health or our home life, and the little everyday things too. So, thankfully, Joseph Goldstein had a lot to say about clinging, and he wrote about it in many places, but in his book, One Dharma, he had much to say about it, and I'm going to take the liberty of reading some excerpts and see what this brings up for everybody. So this is Joseph Goldstein's wonderful book. He says, so how can we practice this? He's talking about clinging. He's talking about just what I'm talking about, holding on. How can we practice the mind of non-clinging? Clearly, the more quickly we recognize where we do cling, the more quickly we can relax the mind into that space of openness, of ease, and of freedom. And the Buddha was very helpful in pointing out where we do cling, just in case we're missing it. The first arena of clinging is the obvious one. We cling to the pleasant experiences. We like what's pleasant. We like pleasant sights and sounds and tastes, pleasant sensations in the body, pleasant feelings. We like pleasant meditative states. There's no problem with the pleasantness of them. It's part of our life experience. The problem is that we often devote our life energy to the getting, sustaining, accumulation, and repeating of these pleasant experiences. It's if our life revolves around getting one more hit of pleasantness. But as we all know, these pleasant experiences don't last, so they don't really have the capacity to bring us true happiness, to bring us completion, he says, to bring us fulfillment. We're always seeking more. That's samsara, the endless wheel of becoming, fueled by wanting. The force of desire is not just a trivial habit. The habit of wanting what's pleasant is rooted so deeply in our conditioning. Even someone as remarkable as His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks of the strong force of desire in the mind. He once told a story at a conference in Los Angeles. Every day on the way to the conference, he was driven down a street with shops selling the newest technology toys. And as you know, or as you may know, he has a great interest in the latest technologies. So on the last day of the conference, he recounted what had been going on in his mind. And as he was driving being driven past these stores, he said that by the end of the week, he found himself wanting some of these things, even though he didn't even know what they were, which I think is funny. Again, it's not that there's a problem with having pleasant experience, it's just part of our lives. But when we make it the focal point of our lives, it becomes the basis of tremendous frustration, because it can never fulfill its promise for happiness. At the time of death, what will all the various pleasant experiences have? What really will be of value at that time? What will be of most value is the ability of the mind not to hold on, to not grasp, to not cling. But we can't wait until the time of death to accomplish this. We really need to practice it now. Okay, that's first. That's his first part. Everybody's with me so far, I assume, with Joseph, right? The second arena of clinging that the Buddha pointed out is one that has tremendous consequences, both in our own lives and in the world. This is the attachment we have to our views and opinions about things. And boy, I couldn't agree more. We're very attached to our own points of view. We're attached to being right. What's so amazing is that we're often attached to our opinions regarding things we know nothing about. But that does not seem to weaken our attachment. We don't know a lot. We don't know how much more. We don't know much more than we know. And it's a relief to let go of our attachment to views, our attachment to opinions, to letting go of these opinions, especially about things we don't know. A new mantra began to form in his mind. He says, who knows? That was his mantra, who knows? This not knowing is not a quality of bewilderment. It's not a quality of confusion. It's a quality, it's like a breath of fresh air, an openness of mind. Not knowing is simply holding an open mind regarding these very interesting questions to which we might not have answers. And I like that, for sure. Of course, even more difficult is letting go of our attachment to things that we do know. Even when our opinion is based on some experience, it's still limited. When we don't hold on to viewpoints quite so tightly, it allows for the possibility of seeing from other perspectives. We might actually learn something from someone else. One of the great Japanese Zen masters had a wonderful line in his teachings, and he said, don't side with yourself. This is a good reminder to keep an open mind. This is part of our practice. Okay, thirdly, when he's talking about clinging, he says the last attachment about clinging that he wants to mention is one that is most deeply rooted, the most difficult to see through and understand. That is the attachment we have to the concept of or belief in self. Huge topic, right? Seeing through this illusion of self is the heart of the Dharma of liberation. Every Buddhist tradition will talk of this because it is this insight, this understanding, which is ultimately liberating. It is seeing through the illusion, the concept, the belief, the idea of a self-center. But selflessness is also the most puzzling aspect of the Buddhist teaching. If there's no self, then who's sitting here? Who gets angry? Who falls in love? Unlike many other aspects of the teaching, selflessness is not easily accessible to our normal level of understanding. It takes a disciplined practice to investigate and explore the deepest nature of this mind-body process. Our mind might help us understand the meaning of selflessness. Let's try that again. One image might help us understand the meaning of selflessness. Think back to the last time you saw a rainbow. You look up at the sky, see this beautiful rainbow, and feel the momentary joy that comes from that experience of beauty. But is there something in and of itself that's the rainbow? Or is a rainbow an appearance arising out of the coming together of different conditions? There's air, moisture, and light arranged in a certain way, and out of those conditions a rainbow appears. But there's no substantial thingness to the rainbow. It's simply an appearance out of conditions. We can look at ourselves this way. We're like the rainbow. There is indeed an appearance of self, And on that level of appearance, self does exist. Just like it's true that we have the experience of what we call rainbow. But on the relative level, we do relate to one another as individuals. So it's not to deny the appearance of self, but to realize that it's only an appearance. When we go beyond or see through or begin to understand the conditions that are giving rise to appearance, then we come to taste the profound teachings of the Buddha on emptiness. Emptiness does not mean that things aren't there. It means that they do not have some self-existing nature independent of conditions. I'll repeat that. Emptiness does not mean that things are not there. It means that they do not have some self-existing nature independent of conditions. When we can see this in our experience, we begin to understand the selflessness of this whole life process. And the deeper the wisdom of selflessness, the more love and compassion flow freely. A Sri Lankan monk summed up the great value of realizing emptiness when he said, "No self, no problem." So Joseph takes that from physical into our concepts and beliefs into our belief of self. And he's basically saying the Buddha is asking us to look at this version of self in a different way. So I want to just jump over to another teaching that I read a little bit from this. This is from someone named Kyra Julingo, who was a former nun, and she wrote a book called We Were Made for These Times. She's talking about working out problems in a spacious way. And in some ways she's talking about emptiness too. She's saying, anchoring ourselves in our body, we'll find within us the solidity of the home, which is capable of helping us find our way if we only let it. Thich Nhat Hanh would often say, don't try to figure out the answer by thinking about it. In thinking over a question again and again, we do not generally arrive at real wisdom, but we easily tire ourselves out and get even more confused or anxious. These deeper life questions can't be resolved at the level of the mind, but must be entrusted to a different, deeper part of our consciousness. Thich Nhat Hanh, suggests we consider this big question as a seed planted in the soil of our mind and let it rest there. Our mindfulness practice in our daily lives is the sunshine and the water that the seed needs to sprout so that one day it will rise up on its own in its own time, and then we'll know the answer to our question without a doubt. We must leave that seed down there in the soil of our mind and not keep digging to see if it's growing roots. It may take weeks, months, or years, but we can trust that the seed is down there. And yes, waiting for the answer to arise can be challenging at times because we may really want to know that answer now. We may find ourselves feeling deeply insecure and fearful if we don't know what to do, which path to choose, what will happen. We worry we'll make the wrong choice, and we catastrophize about what might happen if we take this or that direction. It's hard to find our way if we continue to feed this worry and fear. We could recognize that we're not helping the situation and stop. That's what we can do. Return to the moment, anchoring ourselves in our body. Find the solidity of the home inside of us, which is capable of helping us find our way if only we let it. If we can let go of trying to figure out the future in our heads. So we can slow down and we can rest back in the uncertainty rather than fighting it. We can breathe in and out, putting our minds completely on our breathing, or feel our bodies, or put all our attention on our sensations, and create that space. We can slow things down and let our nervous system recalibrate and center. The external situation may not change, but we've changed our relation to that external situation. And we can have a chance to touch into something deeper than overwhelm. This practice of pausing or stopping helps the seed of our question to mature and ripen in our guidance and direction we need. So to me, this all turns back to when our thinking is absolute, when we think we know, when we think there's something to hold on to, when we think we can change things that we reasonably really have no control over, we're putting ourselves in a cycle of suffering. And I chose those two teachings to share with you because I think that they're helpful, and at least I hope they are to you. They were helpful to me, and I'd love to hear what folks have to say about them, if anything. And let's open this up to questions.